Previously, we have seen the architecture of ARM Cortex M3, and in that we have seen the registers. What are the different registers in Cortex M3, and we have also seen the special registers, right? So today we will see the different operation modes of ARM Cortex M3. So we had just discussed this when we had seen the control register. The Cortex M3 processor has two operation modes and two privilege levels. The two operation modes are the thread mode and the handler mode, and the two privilege levels are privileged level and user level, right? The thread mode and handler mode, and privilege level and user level. So these are two different things: operation modes and privilege levels. So what operation modes do is they determine whether the processor is running a normal program or it is running an exception handler like an interrupt handler or system exception handler. The Whenever it is in thread mode, it will be running a normal program, and when it is running some interrupt handlers or exception handlers, it will be in the handler mode, right? So for that there are two modes. If for running normal programs, it will be in thread mode. For exceptions or interrupts, it will be in the handler mode. Then the privilege levels, the privilege level and the user level, they provide a mechanism for safeguarding memory accesses to critical regions to protect the memory from unauthorized access, as well as providing a basic security model. Okay, so this gives an indication of what are the different operation modes and privilege levels. So whenever the system is running an exception handler, it has to be in handler mode, and when it is not running an exception handler, or it is in the normal program, or it is in the main program, it will be in the thread mode. And when it is in the thread mode, it can be in both privileged level or user level, whereas when it is in handler mode, it has to be in the privileged level. Okay, so it can be a thread privileged level, a thread mode user level, whereas a handler mode, it has to be privileged level. There is no user level in handler mode, right? So this is a thing you need to understand. So whenever the processor is running a main program, it will be in thread mode. So it can be in either of them. It can be either in privileged level or user level. So that's what we can see here. When it is not running an exception handler, that is when it is in the main program, it is in the thread mode. It can be either in privileged access level or user access level, but the exception handlers can only be in privileged level. That means in handler mode, it can only have privileged level. This handler mode user level access is not allowed. There is no such thing like handler mode and user access, user level. Okay, there is only handler mode, privileged level. And you have seen previously in the control register. So the control register has two bits: control bit 0 and control bit 1. The control bit 1 is used to indicate whether it is main stack pointer or process stack pointer, right? The control bit 1, if you just go through that, the control bit 1 is used to indicate whether it is main stack pointer or the alternate stack, that is process stack pointer. So when that control bit 1 is 0, it is the main stack pointer. When that control bit 1 is 1, it is process stack pointer. And control bit 0 is used to indicate the state, whether it is privileged level or user level, right? So in thread mode, it is if it is control bit 0 is 0, it is privileged level. If it is 1, it is user level. So that's what we see here. Control bit 0, if it is 0, it is in the privileged level. If it is 1, it is in the user level access, right? And in both of them, control bit 0 and control bit 1, it can either be 0 or 1. That means it can be main stack pointer or process stack pointer. Whereas when the control bit 1 is 0, control bit 1 is 0, it indicates it is the main stack pointer, right? Control bit 1 is 0 means it indicates it is default stack, that is main stack pointer, and it is in the privileged level, right? It is in the privileged level. In privileged level, control bit 0 is always 0. Control bit 0 is 0 for privileged level, and control bit 0 is 1 for user level, right? Control bit 0 is 1 for user level. So you cannot have something like control bit 1, control bit 1, control bit 0 as 1 and control bit 1 as 1, right? So that is not possible because there is no such thing like handler mode and user level access. So whenever the processor exits reset, that means when you reset, when you start the processor, it exits reset, it is in the thread mode. Initially it will be in the thread mode in privileged level, that means with privileged access rights. So in the privileged state, a program has access to all the memory and it can use all the supported instructions. When it is in privileged state, it can access all the memory ranges except when prohibited by MPU. That is, whenever you set the memory protection unit to prohibit some access to some memory ranges, only then it will not have access to that particular memory range. Otherwise, it will have access to the entire memory range, and it can use all the supported instructions. So as I said, as we have seen, when the processor exits reset, that means during the start, as soon as we reset the processor, the first thing, it will be in the thread mode with privileged access rights. It will be privileged level and thread mode. From there, you can change the state to user level and thread mode by programming the control register, right? So if you change the control bit 0, if you change the control bit 0 to 1, control bit 0, if you change it to 1, then the access level changes from privileged level to user level, right? So if you change control bit 0 to 1, you can change from privileged thread to user thread. So that is possible by changing the control bit, that is change from privileged level to user level thread. But from user level thread, if it has to go to privileged thread, that means privileged level thread, it cannot just change, it cannot do that change by just changing the control bit. See, from privileged level, you can go to user level by changing control bit 0 from 0 to 1. But you cannot change that bit 1 to 0 and go to privileged thread. That means, what I mean is, from user level thread, if you want to go to privileged thread, it has to cause an exception. Okay, it has to cause an exception. When you cause an exception, it will go to handler mode, right? It will go to the handler mode, that is privileged handler. In handler mode, there is only one access level, privileged level. There is no user level. It will go to privileged handler, and in that handler, through that handler, you can change the state to privileged thread. So it cannot go directly from user thread to privileged thread, but it has to cause an exception to privileged handler, and from there, once the exception exits, you can go to privileged thread. Okay, sometimes there might be, you can also return to user level thread. From privileged handler, you can also return to user level thread. Okay, and from privileged thread, you can if an exception occurs when it is in the thread mode, from the privileged thread, the state shifts to privileged handler. Once the handler exception is served, or the interrupt is served, it goes back to the privileged thread, and from privileged thread, it can go to user level thread, right? This is the different these are different transitions between different states. There are actually 3 states, that is privileged thread, privileged handler, and user thread. There is no user handler. Okay, so, and there is no direct shift or transition from user level thread to privileged level thread. So from user thread, if you want to go to privileged thread, you have to cause an exception, go to privileged handler, and from there you can go to privileged thread, right? So through the control register, you can only change from thread mode, privilege level, to thread mode, user level, and you cannot do the other way. So that's what we need to understand in this particular case. So software in the privileged access level can switch the program into the user access level using the control register. That's what we have seen. From privileged access level to user access level, you can switch that using the control register. So whenever an exception takes place, the processor will always switch back to the privileged state, because in user state there is no exception handler. Handler can be there only in privileged state, and return to the previous state when exiting the exception handler. Okay, so if it was exception caused in user thread, it will return to user thread from privileged handler. If the exception caused is from privileged thread, it will return to privileged thread. Okay, so a user program cannot change back to the privileged state by writing to the control register. That's what I said. From user state, you cannot go back to privileged state by changing the control bit. It has to go through an exception handler that programs the control register to switch the processor back into the privileged access level when returning to thread. Okay, so just to cause an exception, and from there it moves to privileged thread. That's the procedure. So why we have these separate things? The separation of privilege and user levels improves the system reliability. How? By preventing the system configuration registers from being accessed or being changed by some untrusted programs, right? So by separating, by having separate user level and privileged level for different functions, you can prevent some untrusted programs from changing the configuration registers. So apart from this, if a memory protection unit is available, it can be used along with privilege levels. It can be used in conjunction with privilege levels to protect critical memory locations like programs and data for operating systems. Okay, for example, with privileged accesses usually used by the OS kernel, all memory locations can be accessed unless it is prohibited by MPU. Okay, when the OS launches a user application, it is likely to be executed in the user access level. So instead of privileged access, it will be given a different access level, user access level, to protect the system from failing due to a crash of untrusted user programs. So these user access level programs, they cannot interfere in the OS kernel. They cannot make any changes to the OS kernel, which can be accessed only by privileged access, right? So that's how you can protect the system or OS from crashing by untrusted user programs. So in the user access level, that is in the thread mode, access to the system control space, that we call in short as SCS, the system control space, which is a part of memory for configuration registers and debugging components, that is blocked. I mean, user level programs cannot access this system control space. For that, you need to operate as in the handler mode with privilege levels. Okay, sorry, in the privilege level itself, it could be handler or thread mode. You cannot use the user level. And also instructions that access special registers like MRS and MSR, they cannot be used. Okay, except the APSR, other instructions they cannot be. For other registers, we cannot use MRS and MSR when it is in user access level. So if a program running at the user access level tries to access that system control space or special registers, it will cause an exception. That means some fault has occurred and it will go to the exception handler and it has to rectify it. So this is the way how there is switching of operation modes from different levels. There are three modes you can see: user thread, privileged thread, and privileged handler. As we have seen initially, when we reset, the program will be in privileged thread, right? So privileged thread, it is a starting code. Then if you want to go to user thread, it has to write to the control register, to the control bit 0. If you make 1 from privileged thread, it will change the mode to user thread, right? Switch to user mode by writing to control register. Now once it is in user thread, okay, if some exception happens, it will go to the exception handler. It will go to the exception handler, and that will be in privileged handler mode. And upon exit of that exception, it will return to wherever it was. I mean, it was in user mode, right? It will go to the user mode, user thread itself. Now if it wants to change the state or operation mode to privileged thread, it cannot directly do. It cannot directly go from user mode to user thread to privileged thread. Privileged thread, what it has to do is it has to cause an exception. When it causes an exception, it will go to the privilege handler. To an exception handler, you have to program the control register so that you change the bit from 1 to 0 and back to, it will go back to, or it will be changed to privileged thread, right? So user cannot write to the control register to make the control bit 0 as 0. So it has to cause an exception, and through programming the control register, we can change the state of a program from user mode to user thread to privileged thread. So there is no direct change or transition from user mode to privileged mode. It has to go from user thread to privileged handler, and from there it has to come to privileged thread, right? So this is the way the switching is done for change of the operation modes. And in some cases, in simple applications, we don't need to have the user thread. We can just operate in privileged thread itself. Normally, when you do not suspect any programs to cause problems to the operating system or something like that, we do not have that user thread mode. So there is no need to separate the privileged and user access levels in simple applications. Here there is no need to use user access level and no need to program the control register. Control register is programmed just to change the state from privileged thread to user thread. So this simplifies the task. Whenever the program begins, it will be in privileged thread, right? Suppose from privileged thread, some exception happens, it will go to the exception handler, that will be in privileged handler. Upon exit of that exception, it will come back to privileged thread. Again, if exception happens, if it goes to exception handler, that is in privileged handler mode. Upon exit of that exception, it will come back to privileged thread. Just transitions in privileged state itself from thread mode to handler mode. That's all, nothing much. There is no user thread at all. This can be done when the applications are simple and you do not worry about the user level programs causing problems to kernel level programs or privileged programs. And the mode and the access level of the processor, they are defined by the control register that we have seen yesterday while discussing control register, right? The mode and the access, operation mode and privilege access of the processor, they are defined by control register. When the control register bit is 0, when control register bit 0 is 0, the processor mode changes when an exception takes place, right? When an exception takes place, when control bit 0 is 0, it is privileged access, right? It is privileged access. So there the processor mode changes when an exception takes place. That means it will be in the thread mode. If an exception happens, the mode will change to handler mode. It will be in thread mode. If an exception happens, the mode will change to handler mode. And when the control register bit 0 is 1, that is in the thread level, right? In the thread level, there is no change to handler mode, because thread mode handler, in the thread mode there is no user level, right? So if the control bit 0 is 1, it is in the user level. It is in the user level. In the user level, it can only be in the thread mode, right? Thread running user application. Both processor mode and access level change when an exception takes place. So when an exception takes place, the mode will change from thread mode to handler mode, and even access level will change from user level access to privileged access. Okay, access level will change from user access or user level to privileged level, right? Whereas when the control bit 0 is 0, if it is in the thread mode, okay, so if it is if you are changing that bit 0 to 1, okay, if the control bit 0 is 0, okay, if it is in the thread mode, if an exception takes place, right, it will only change the processor mode, that is from thread mode to handler mode. The access level will remain the same. If it is privileged level, it will remain privileged level. If it is user level, it will remain user level, because the thread mode is there in both privileged level as well as user level. Whereas control bit 0 is 1 means it is thread mode running user application, right? Well, then if at all an exception happens, then both of them change. That means the processor mode will change from thread mode to handler mode, and access level will change from user level to privileged level, right? So control bit 0 is programmable only in the privileged level. You cannot program that in the user level. So you have to cause an exception, and then you have to change the state from privileged handler to privileged thread. For user level program to switch to privileged state, it has to raise an interrupt, right? That is an exception. It has to cause an exception or raise an interrupt. For example, some supervisor call like SVC and write to the control bit 0 within the handler. It cannot be done in the thread mode. It has to go to the handler mode, and from there it has to come back to privileged thread mode. So what are the changes what happens at the interrupt? Switching processor mode at interrupt. Suppose the operation is thread mode. Okay, so if it is thread mode, privileged level access, right? When an interrupt happens, certain stacking operations have to be done, right? Present context of the processor has to be saved. For that, the present context registers will be stacked, and then from the main program you will change to interrupt service routine. When an interrupt happens, interrupt service routine will run, right? When the interrupt service routine is running, it will be in the handler mode, and handler mode will always be in privileged level. Upon exit of that interrupt, when that interrupt service routine is completed, you have to return to the main program. At that time, you have to unstack. Here you are pushing into the stack, here you are popping out of the stack, and that means you are restoring the registers, and then you are moving back to the main program. That is, it will return to the same state, that is the thread mode. Okay, so when it is in privileged level, that is when control bit 0 is 0. It is in the privileged level. Whenever the processor mode changes, whenever the exception happens, only the processor mode will change. It is from thread mode to handler mode, and back from handler mode to thread mode. The access level remains the same. It will be in the privileged access level itself. Okay, so if at all you are in the, if at all control bit 0 is 1, you are in the user level access. The processor or the program is in the user level access. In that case, when an exception happens, from thread mode, when it is in thread mode, if an exception happens, then or an interrupt happens, it has to serve that interrupt, so it will execute the interrupt service routine, right? In that case, what happens in the user mode? In the user level there is no handler mode, so processor mode will change from user to privileged, and also the operation mode, the access level will change from user to privileged, and processor mode will change from thread to handler, right? Both of them will change, the access level as well as the processor mode. Okay, so that's the difference we have when the control bit 0 is 0 and when control register bit 0 is 1. When it is 0, it means it is in the privileged access level, only the processor mode will change. When it is 1, it is in the user access level, here both access level will change as well as processor mode will change, right? That's about the different operation modes and privileged levels. Then you have one more thing in the architecture, or that we have to understand in Cortex M3, is the Cortex M3, it has got a predefined memory map. Predefined memory map means, see, it is a 32-bit processor or controller, right? When it is 32-bit means it can address up to 2 raised to 32. Up to 2 raised to 32 bytes of memory. What is 2 raised to 32? It is 4 GB. It is 4 gigabytes. In this 4 gigabytes, this 4 gigabytes is mapped to particular function. Some part, the parts of 4 GB, entire 4 GB is mapped to particular functions. So this allows the built-in peripherals like the interrupt controller, the debug components to be accessed by simple memory access instructions. By using memory access instructions, we can also use some peripherals like interrupt controller and debug components. That means they are mapped to some part of the memory. So thus most system features are accessible by using C, embedded C. You can use and access different features by mapping that to the memory. The predefined memory map, it also allows the Cortex M3 to be highly optimized for speed and ease of integration in the system on chip designs. So the overall the 4 GB memory space, it can be divided into different ranges, as you can see in this particular diagram. So the initially from starting address 00002 to 1FFFF. So this is actually half GB. This is entire 4 GB, right? 32 bits. Each F is 4 bits, right? One F is 1111. 4 bits. You can see there are 8 digits. 8 4s are 32. So it's 32 bits address. It can have 4 GB of memory space, right? So then this will be half GB. Okay, 1 and then all F7 for the 28, 29 bits 1. If you find that, it will be half GB. That will be for code memory. So it is used for program code or ROM, you can say, right? Program code. It also provides exception vector table after power up. After power up, it has to start from some address, right? So that will be written in this particular thing. Then another half GB from 2002 to 3FFFF. There is RAM, static RAM. It is used as static RAM, SRAM. Then another half GB, it is used for peripherals. To store the addresses of peripherals. It will be mapped in this particular region from 4000 to 5FFFF. Okay. Then there is 1 GB, another 1 GB for external RAM. The addresses of external RAM are mapped in this particular 1 GB of area from 6000 to 9FFFF. Then external peripherals, external to the system, external devices, they can be connected in this 1 GB of space, A0002 DFFFF. Then at the top level, half GB, that is for system level components, like some private peripherals, like built-in interrupt controller, nested vector interrupt controller, or memory protection unit control registers, debug components. All these are mapped in the system level, that is at the top, half GB. So half plus half plus half is 1.5 plus 1 2.5 plus 1 3.5 plus half. Totally it is 4 GB of memory space. It is mapped or predefined. There is a predefined memory map for different functions. which through which we can easily access the different components and peripherals as well as memory. So the Cortex M3 design, it has an internal bus infrastructure optimized for this memory usage. So there is an internal bus. When there is a memory, there has to be it has to be connected. It has to be interfaced to the processor core through some wires. That is called the internal bus infrastructure. In addition, the design allows these regions to be used differently. That means we have said there is code memory, RAM, and certain other things, right? That doesn't mean that in code region you have to put only the code. It can also be used to store data as well, right? So there is no restriction that it has to be only code there, right? It is mapped for code, but you can put other thing also. That's what we say. For example, data memory can still be put into the code region, and program code can be executed from an external random access memory region. That means here, from here also you can write the code and access it. Okay, we have predefined map, but you can override that also, not a problem. The system level, but there are certain restrictions. Okay, you cannot use as you like it. There are some restrictions as to where you can put certain types of data in what regions. The system level memory region contains the interrupt controller and debug components that you can say at the top half GB. By having fixed addresses for these peripherals, we can port the applications between different Cortex M3 products much more easily, right? So by having fixed addresses, just by, if you want to change the products or Cortex M3 devices, it can be done very easily without reprogramming everything, because addresses are fixed for different Cortex M3 processors. Even if you change that, with lesser modifications, you can port from one product to the other. Then there is, as we have said, there is bus interface for providing the data transfer and also for instruction fetching and all. So there are several bus interfaces on Cortex M3 processor. So they allow the Cortex M3 to carry instruction fetches and data accesses at the same time, right? That is, it has a Harvard architecture. So instruction and data can be fetched at the same time. That means there are different instruction bus and data bus. The main bus interfaces there are three types of buses. One is code memory buses, another is the system bus, another is the private peripheral bus. The code memory region access is carried out on the code memory bus. So there are two buses there. One is called I code, another one is D code. I code is the instruction of the code. That means whatever the instructions, they will be in the machine language that is stored in the memory, right? So the instructions of the code, that is I code, that is to the I code bus, it will be fetched. Apart from instruction, when you decode the instruction, it will be normally operations on certain registers or some IO ports or something like that, right? That means some data has to be carried, or the instructions require some data. Suppose there is an instruction move R0, 5, the contents of R0 has to be fetched, right? So that is the data required by the instruction. That is called, that is fetched, or that is transferred using D code bus for transferring the data required by the instruction. So there is I code and D code for fetching instructions and data required by the code. So these are optimized for instruction fetches for best instruction execution speed, right? Then another kind of bus interface is system bus. It is used to access memory and peripherals, SRAM, external SRAM, and different peripherals and external peripherals. Those things are there, right? So this provides access to static random access memory, peripherals, external RAM, and external device. Okay, so these things, and part of system level memory regions, the upper half GB. Another type of bus is private peripheral bus. It provides access to a part of system level memory dedicated to private peripherals like debugging components. Okay, in this there are again different parts. Some part can be accessed using the system bus, some part can be accessed using private peripherals. Also, there is another thing in the architecture, that is memory protection unit. This is, however, an optional thing. You can choose to have it, or you can even omit this. This allows access rules to be set up for privileged access and user program access. When an access rule is violated, access rule means some part of the memory can be accessed by some programs only. So such rules can be defined. if some program tries to access some part of memory which it is not authorized to access, then it causes an exception. If that means it violates the rule, when an access rule is violated, a fault exception is generated, and the fault exception handler will be able to analyze the problem and correct it if possible. So this memory protection unit, it can be used in different ways. Commonly, the OS can set up the memory protection unit to protect data used by the OS kernel and other privileged processes to be protected from untrusted user programs. That's what we have said, from untrusted user programs to protect the OS kernel by, or to protect it from untrusted user programs. We can use this memory protection unit. It can also be used to make memory regions read-only, so that other unauthorized users cannot write into it, to prevent accidental erasing of data, or to isolate memory regions between different tasks in a multitasking system. Even for that, we can use memory protection unit. Okay, if it is a multitasking system, then different parts of the memory can be allocated to different tasks. Okay, so that is, we say we are isolating the memory regions between different tasks. For this also we can use memory protection. So overall, it will make the embedded systems more robust and reliable. So however, as we have said, it is optional, and whether to include it or not, it is determined during the implementation stage of your microcontroller or system on chip design. Right, so this today we have just seen some more components or different units in the architecture, and we have seen the operation modes, user mode and handler mode, and privileged level and user level. Right, we have also seen the memory map, the bus interface, and the memory protection unit. Tomorrow in the next class, we will see some more features of the architecture, like nested vectored interrupt controller. What are different features of this nested vectored interrupt controller? What are the different vector tables? Then interrupts and exceptions that can happen in Cortex M3. Then how the stack is implemented. Right. So all these things we will see in the next class.